because gravity uses that, day and night cycle uses that, everything uses that. Alleged radius of orbit to go to space. All of these claims require that radius value to be true. The distances on the globe. So if it's untrue, the entire model is untrue. So that's a stillman of our position is that we went to look for evidence of the globe and it wasn't there. And falsification is independent of replacement.
That's such a critical point, that falsification is independent of replacement. That is such a critical point. I mean, that intro video that I was talking, I mean, the intro of all debates that I said should be 5 minutes, it should probably be closer to 10 minutes. Because that point really needs to be driven home to any individual who wants to participate in any debate on any subject. You don't need to know what happened to know what didn't happen. You don't need to know the truth to know what isn't the truth. If I claim to have gone to Mars yesterday, you don't need to know where I went to know where I didn't go. So even if you can't prove exactly where I went, if you have particular timestamps, toll receipts, whatever, you can prove, you might not be able to prove exactly where I went, but you can reasonably deduce that I did not go to Mars or somewhere claimed. For example, if I just said, I'm in the US and I just went to Egypt for a second and came back. I mean, you don't, even if I actually leave the mic for a second, that was a second. I didn't go back and forth between the US and Egypt in that second. You don't need to know where I went. Maybe I didn't go anywhere. To know where I didn't go. And for whatever reason, so many people can't comprehend that point.
And I'll say this analogy, maybe it'll land. It's like if I went and looked through my parents' closet and I found adoption papers, and I'm like, walk up to you and say, dude, Harrison, you'll never believe it, man. My whole life is a lie, bro. Those aren't really my parents. I was adopted. And you say, well, who are your real parents then? I said, I don't know. I just found out that they're not my real parents. I just falsified they're my parents. I don't really know who the real ones are. And you could say, wait, you think everyone in town's in on it? Everyone in the church is in on it? No, they believe the lie. They believe that those are my parents. And if you said, well, until you can tell me who your real parents are, I'm not going to believe that those aren't your real parents. That would be ridiculous, right? Obviously, the falsification that they're my parents stands on its own. That's the way that this situation goes. Frankly and respectfully, I would say it's somewhat coping. Do not focus on that. Focus on the evidence or lack thereof for the positive globe Earth claim.
That's a great point and great analogy by Whitsitt there. Because, again, that's also a great one. Because he kind of covered a lot of points there. I hope everybody was paying attention. I mean, this is like Jordan, again, putting up 50 points. He's running a clinic. Austin Whitsitt is just running a logical clinic on Harrison here. Harrison doesn't even know what's going on as he's getting 50 points scored on him. Because, again, you don't need to know what the truth is to know what it isn't. And people being misled does not mean they are lying. Humans are fallible. I talk about this all the time. The scientism cult is basically pretending that humans can't be corrupt or fallible in large numbers. It can only be a single human there or a single human there in another place. And actually, George Carlin had an excellent quote. There's an excellent George Carlin quote on conspiracies. You don't need a formal conspiracy when interests converge. I'll repeat that again for the cheap seats if there's any coincidence theorists up in here. You don't need a formal conspiracy when interests converge. So, for example, different mafias that are in competition with each other, the Italian mafia, the Chinese triads, the Japanese yakuza, if there's some kind of Interpol crackdown on something, they want to survive and continue to make money. So they might not even have formal meetings where they discuss what to do about Interpol, but they're all going to be involved in some levels of deception against Interpol and to continue their business. So if there is some kind of interests converging, another example I used are slave plantation owners. Anything that threatens the institution of slavery, they're going to be against, even if they don't have a formal meeting, even if they compete each other. If there's different cotton plantations that are also each other's competition, they're still going to be aligned, formally or informally, about anything that threatens their entire institution. So if there is some kind of Illuminati agenda to get everybody to believe the Earth is a globe, all of these statist cults and their space agencies, these countries and their space agencies, they would be in it to deceive, even if they don't formally have any kind of agreement or meeting in order to do so. They're gonna continue the deception independently if it threatens any kind of foundation of control over their citizenry. So I don't know if I want to call that a basic concept, but that is a concept that should be understood by anyone even talking about any kind of conspiracy.
Which is antithetical to all evidence and experience, and then focus on random questions like the meme says, oh, how does everything in the universe work? Oh, you don't know? Well, checkmate, stupid flirt, right? If you've ever seen that meme, that isn't a proper way to go about it. So that's kind of a lot of the meta arguments there. I don't really see this being a successful psyop. I think that it's done quite the opposite. And people should just step back and kind of look at the evidence for what it is. And that's what I encourage people to do. And just like you said, I will say, just like with everything else, like with the pandemic, we got gaslit the whole time. Oh, you science denier this, science denier that. Oh, you have no idea what we're talking about. Trust the experts. And of course, it was all a lie. It was all a lie. So ridiculing people, mocking people, dismissing them as a psyop and stuff is not an approach we should take as truth.
Another point I want to add here is, I've brought this example up many times too, the appeal to motive nonsense. Why would they do this or that? Like a serial killer. A serial killer could be killing all these people, and there's bodies and evidence, blood evidence, weapons, etc. Just because you can't figure out the motive, like maybe just like with a lot of these conspiracies, MK Ultra, whatever, without the top secret clearance levels, like the coincidence theorist, authority worshipping cultist, bootlicker goofs who hallucinate that just because they can't comprehend what a good enough motive would be, they don't have the top secret level clearances. And if the reason is something else entirely, it's not relevant. Because if you're just objectively, logically, and neutrally examining the available evidence using logic and reason, the motive is, I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but it doesn't matter. You can still find out what the truth is, or at least what it isn't, without knowing motive.
That's right. We never do that. So long story short, when you look into the actual alleged claim that the Earth's a spinning globe, which, again, is antithetical to experience. So you're saying, well, I think you have the burden of proof as well. I agree. If we say that the Earth is flat and stationary, that has a burden. And it's substantiated with every observation and all-day experience that we have. Everyone experiences the Earth is stationary. Everyone experiences that the stuff in the sky moves in relation to the Earth not moving. We fly planes like the Earth is flat and stationary. We build bridges, runways, railways, all engineering as if the Earth is flat. Everything that we do is as if this Earth is stationary and flat. The horizon, I mean, it comes from the word horizontal. So the default empirical position is that the Earth is flat and stationary, and that the sun and the stars and the moon, they move over top of us. There's a claim that comes in and says, well, that's actually an illusion, right? And everything is back. So that would have the burden of proof, and that's the line of logic for that.
All right.
I mean, I don't see how anybody can refute. Like, this is like Michael Jordan just dunking it in everybody's face repeatedly. Like, what are they going to do to come back from that? Perhaps Harrison's best course of action for somebody who's a narcissist looking to indulge their ego, perhaps his only move here is to ignore everything Austin just said. I mean, obviously that would demonstrate that it's not good faith debate. But I mean, I would not want to be in that argument against Austin simply because what he just said is not refutable. You can bring up other points, sure. But how are you going to address exactly what Austin just said? That was possibly one of the strongest lines of reasoning ever put forth in any flat earth debate. Again, that it didn't prove any kind of conclusion on its own, but in terms of logical argumentation, that was probably the most precise and logically sound line of reasoning anybody has ever put forth in a flat earth debate. Miss Rex Murphy with a very, very astute observation in the chat. The motive is to diminish God.